Hey everybody, before we start this episode of Tabletop Babble, I just wanted to let you know that I am running D&D games in a castle in France the weekend of July 4th. You can play D&D with me, you could play with Jeremy Crawford, you could play with Satine Phoenix, you could play with Rudy Rudenberg, Tim Modeshaw, Zoltar from Sage Advice. There are so many amazing people who are going to be there, and there are still spots left. To find out more, head on over to dndinacastle.com. That's dndinacastle.com. Can't wait to see you in France. This is Tabletop Babble. I'm James Introcaso. Today on the show, I am talking with two amazing people, Chris and Sharon Dudley. They are a married couple that has been playing role-playing games together for years, and they have lots of great advice to give on how to play games together as a couple. Let's get right to my interview with these two amazing folk. Okay, I am here with two of my very favorite people, Chris and Sharon. Welcome to Tabletop Babble. It is a pleasure to have you here. First question, let the people out there know who you are and what you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games. Chris, we'll start with you.
Well, I used to run a podcast called the Rule Zero Podcast, and we haven't put out a show in a couple of years, but Pete and I are talking about getting that back up off the ground. I've got one writer's credit for a Paizo product, which is really awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. What is that product? Shout it out.
Tears at Bitter Manor. It is a module that came out as a consequence of an RPG Superstar. I didn't write the module, but I was in that year's contest. I had, the contest is submit a magic item, and if you make the top 32, you go to the next round. I got in the top 32, but I didn't get to the next round. But the person who didn't win the contest liked my item enough that he put it in the module.
That's awesome. I
wrote 300 words, of which they used about 30. and then kind of rewrote it their own way, but it was, they liked the concept, and of course I didn't get paid because it was submitted for a contest.
Right. That's how they get you.
That's how they get you. I was happy to contribute.
Well, it's excellent to have you here, and also here, of course, is your amazing wife, Sharon. Sharon, who are you, and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
Well, in the world of tabletop games, I play a lot. Mm-hmm. And I started GMing maybe the last 2 years. I'm just getting my feet wet. I really like GMing for children because I'm a teacher and I work with kids. So that's my safe zone in the world of GMing. I'm trying to move on to the grownups, but just grownups are just so much harder to GM for. I think.
And also together we run another podcast called DragonReel.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Which is about fantasy movies. So we're really very into fantasy related things such as movies and role playing and reading fantasy books. And we actually role play with our good friend, William Ray, who just wrote a book. It's a fantasy book and it's a steam.
It's a steam not punk.
It's a steam not punk with high fantasy in it too.
It's a post-high fantasy epic industrial war story.
Yeah, it's really cool though because he's an awesome person to role play with. And what's the tell them what the name
the first book in the series is called Gedland.
Oh,
really, really good.
So look it up.
Definitely.
So I love the role playing aspect of gaming, and sometimes you really want a good fight, but I love staying in character. And Chris and I have a lot of competitions with each other. Oh, we did we say we're married? I don't even know if we said it. This year is our silver anniversary, and we're gonna go to Vegas and get married by Elvis because he's still around. Elvis. Yeah. So and maybe we'll do role playing afterward, and that will be like my perfect 25th anniversary.
That's awesome. Well, first of all, congratulations on being married for 25 years. That in itself is an achievement that we could probably do a whole podcast about.
We unlocked an achievement.
Achievement
it's called
unlocked.
Married 25.
But take me all the way back, each of you, sort of when the first time you started role playing was, and about how long you've been role playing together. So, Chris, how long have you been role playing? When did you start, and what was that experience like?
I'm pretty sure I got the year right. I got the red box, I think, in 1981. For years, I thought it was 1980, and I went back and I looked at the publishing dates of the different boxes, and the one that I got didn't come out until 1981. So I must have gotten it then. So it was my 11th birthday. Oh. And I've been gaming, and that was a D&D basic set, and I've been gaming ever since. So 81, you can do the math.
And you role-played with me in college.
And I met Sharon in college, and we joined a D&D game together.
Don't say how bad I was, though, please.
I won't even go into how bad you were then.
Please don't. I've grown in the last 30 years.
That was a long time ago, Sharon.
I can't believe it's been so long.
So we started gaming together around
19 years old,
88, and I think most of our gaming has been together since then.
Wow, that's awesome. And Sharon, did you play before college, or did Chris introduce you to role playing games?
The strange thing is he did not. I am my own independent woman. I was already into D&D before I met Chris. And I don't even know I think I might have dragged him to our Dave's house. Huh? Is that the case?
That is the case. So Sharon was invited to join a D&D game at our college and told me about it and asked if I wanted to go with her.
Yeah.
Which is an absolute violation of the rule about inviting people to other people's games.
Yeah.
But we kind of weren't really savvy on that because I had only played with one other group before.
But back then you were really good, and I didn't know all the rules. So I had ideas of what I thought my character could do. And looking back, I probably annoyed a lot of people, but I'm sure that I still do. But we go to cons a lot too, James. We've gone to Origins for, I don't know, 6 years.
I think we've gone every year for the last 6 years.
Wow.
And Chris and I sort of compete. And we totally love each other. But when we're in games, like, I think people are probably just looking at us saying, like, what are these two doing? But we've both won Most Valuable Player. And I think they're sick of seeing us in that one room where you get the prizes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
Cthulhu, and we've played superhero games. I love playing Wonder Woman. I just love playing Wonder Woman. I don't know why. Probably because.
So all of our gaming was D&D for a few years, and then we started trying other games. Like it was like we didn't really know that other games were worth playing. It was like we play D&D, and that's the kind of people we are. Yeah. So then we started playing Champions, and then we started playing. I think there was a science fiction game, but I can't remember what it was.
Oh gosh, Shadowrun.
I think that's the first one we played consistently. But so we've played a bunch of different game systems together.
That's amazing. And it's great. I have had the pleasure of gaming with both of you, and it is a blast.
And we're crazy, right? I mean,
I gotta say, Sharon,
say it, James.
Sharon cranks it up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what's the range here? Is it 1 to 10?
Yes.
I care less about swinging the sword than I do about. We had this whole joke where I was playing sort of a really large female fighter. I think she had something like an 8 intelligence, maybe 7. And they said, what we need here is a second story person. And I kind of jumped up and I said, I'm your second story girl. And I pretty much crashed through the roof. And it wasn't at all, thief-like, but I got the job done. But everybody was cracking up because I was just playing crazy and, just staying in character. And that's so fun for me. Thinking about the character's backstory, thinking about, seriously, what would the character do in this situation? Forget about the prize, forget about the +4 sword that may be waiting at the other side. Like, would the character stop and think, or would the character charge through a wall of fire? And and oftentimes I do the crazy thing.
I got to say, my natural play style when I started gaming was, to make up a set of stats and gear and throw it against the dungeon.
Yeah. And play it safe.
And I really wasn't into, the story aspect of it so much as, look how awesome I am. I've got this and this and this thing. And my character can do this and this and this. I was the kind of guy who would like to talk about the character, but you really didn't want to listen to it.
Right. Sure. The more into the game aspect, right? Than the role playing,
the rules, the minutia.
Right. And the game that she brought me into was very story heavy, and that was really the first time I developed story for my characters, and it was because Sharon's character story was so rich, and I was kind of like, oh, I guess I could do something like that. And so I started, actually getting into the role playing side of the house.
Just the details.
So it's all Sharon's fault, really.
Yeah. Well, it's so nice to sit at the table with my husband and share the love of gaming. It always feels like we're driving really far for games. But for example, when we go to Virginia and game, we get to debrief in the car ride home, and it's very nice because he'll say, "Oh my gosh, I love when you did this." I mean, not to go into fine details, but he'll just tell me like, "How did you come up with that?" I'm like, "I have no idea." and I'll tell him, like, "Thank you for doing this thing because then I could play off of it." I think that's really awesome because, after you've been married for 25 years, kind of know each other a little bit. So when we can talk about our characters and the game, sometimes we'll talk about it, for an hour in the car on the ride home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, Chris really surprises me because he has a really good voice and he can do all these different character voices. And when he really gets into it, his voice changes, and I love that.
You're talking about when I dungeon master or when I game master?
I guess I'm talking about both. Like when we went to the con and you did Kermit the Frog as Walken, that was hysterical. And you stole the prize you stole the.
I did.
What is it called? The Oscar.
I got the Oscar
because we were playing Sesame Street.
We were playing Sesame Street, and I won the Oscar.
That is awesome.
Last year, was it last year that we were playing a superhero game,
mm-hmm.
and I was playing Spider-Woman.
Mm-hmm.
So all these crazy things were happening in this game, James, and it turned out that we were in this little boy's D&D adventure, but as superheroes.
Oh, cool.
And so at the very end, I have really not read Spider-Woman comic books, but I had a cheat sheet and Chris had read the sheet to me. And I thought, gosh, I kind of figured that it was a little boy. So I did this.
Well, a teenage boy, not a little boy.
A teenage boy. And I did this sexy pose. And I said, why don't you drop the monster act and come on over. And it was really fun. And then Chris said, how did you know that she would do that? And I said, I don't know, 13-year-old boy. And, so I think it was appropriate. And Chris got mad because that time I did get most valuable player
mm-hmm.
for playing. Yeah. I think I voted for myself though in that game too because I thought it was really good. Who were you playing at the time?
I was playing Iron Man in that game.
Oh yeah, you were. Oh my God! So at one point, Chris says, "So the GM told him, so there's a camera crew there. That's all we got was there's a camera crew there." And he said, "And it's your scene, Iron Man." So Chris is like, "Betty, you stand over here. Mary Lou, you stand over there." Yeah, because you had seen that there was danger, right?
Yeah, I saw that there was danger, and I pushed my bikini models to the side, and I told the crowd,
of course, there were bikini
well, folks,
models.
I know that this was supposed to be about not being inside the suit, but it looks like a little emergency has come up. And I stood up on the side of the building, and I fell backwards off did the nesty plunge off the back, and let the Iron Man armor form around me, and then I went to battle. So
yeah, it was hysterical. Awesome. My husband his mind is so quick. Like he can do scenes like all you have to do is just give him the environment and say go and he does. And awesome. I think that's why I stay with him because he's so awesome.
Because I played Iron Man.
Yeah. Because you did it with such, flair and a certain certain something. If I could speak French, I would say a French word right here.
Well, let's get into it then a little bit, because this is really what I want to talk about. It's clear you both have a lot of respect for each other as role players. When I think about role-playing games and couples, I think a lot of people have like one of two emotions or a mix of these two. They either have excitement or they're terrified, right? And I think part of the fear comes from, if you've never played with your significant other before, feeling like, oh, if they don't like this, like I might ruin it, right? Like we know plenty of people who are like, oh, I played D&D once. It was a horrible experience. I'm never doing it again. And we never want to be those people, especially for the people we love. Right.
Yes.
Because we love those people. But then there's also this like, sometimes role-playing games, the emotions carry over to real life. You can get into arguments about different ways to do stuff. Whenever I play with my wife, Bonnie, she has a little bit of a fear of like, well, what if I do the wrong thing, right? And it's like, well, there is no wrong thing. That's the beauty of this. But sometimes with certain players, there can be a wrong thing to do, right? People will say, why didn't you use this instead of this or whatever? When you all get together, you play so many different games. When you first started playing together, it sounds like you had totally different play styles. How do you, as a couple, make that fun? Like, how do you keep the excitement up and the fear down? And it sounds like at this point you all have played so many games together that fear probably isn't even like a concern at all, right?
Well, it was a big part for a while. Yeah. And when we started playing, when I started running a D&D game for our friends and Sharon was in the game, I was so afraid of giving the appearance of favoritism that I might have been a little bit unfair to her.
I would say a lot of it. But because I really, number one, I love my husband. And number two, he's really creative. I think that good communication, and we're normal people. We've had ups and downs, and I'm not going to lie. And I'm not going to say we've never had an argument about a game, but because we have, and I'm sure,
but Sharon also hasn't been, unfair to me in that regard by saying, I'm your wife, you need to give me this thing a game right now.
No,
she never exercised what we call the ring of Dungeon Master control.
The ring of Dungeon Master control.
Yes, that is the wife player's wedding ring.
You're going to have to figure out what that one means. But no, never. I've never.
When the wife of the Dungeon Master, touches the wedding ring and says, this is the way the DM is going to behave now.
You could take it that way. Yeah, sure. But it's important to talk about the game, like I said, to debrief and to talk about it ahead of time and say, what are we expecting from this game? And I think like when we go into a Cthulhu game, sometimes I get a little nervous because I don't want to die. I don't mind going insane.
And she doesn't mind if she kills me.
No, I really don't. I'm sorry to say that, but sometimes it's just, and see, he has said that I have killed him many times. And I think he said this on other occasions, but it's not that I've killed him exactly. It's just that I don't help him live.
She has either directly or indirectly caused my death probably 40% of the horror games that we've played in.
I don't know. I would say 20. See, but that's where we disagree. When we played Origins in the Cthulhu room last year, was it last year, where the guy had his separate, it was like D&D, but it was it was D&D zombies.
It's a zombie game, yeah.
Room. Yeah, there were zombies, and pretty much you had to survive. And I was upstairs in a room with cameras because I thought, wow, this is awesome. And we found the gun stash in this really cool house, but there were a motorcycle gang was coming and they were going to try to, take the house from us. So for some reason, I don't know why, Chris's character left the camera room and went downstairs. So I didn't make him go downstairs. And then he got shot like 5 million times. And he was
No. I didn't say that you caused my death in that one.
Oh.
You just gloated a little bit too much.
Oh, because I thought you said I caused your death 40% of the time.
No, you enjoyed my death too much in that one.
I really enjoyed that I was still alive and that. But we have fun with it,
So there's definitely a different dynamic between us when I'm running a game or when we're playing side by side.
Sure. Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question is, right, what is that difference between, when one of you is running the game versus you're both playing in the game? Because I do think when you're running the game, there's a little bit more responsibility overall on your shoulders. And so maybe there's less opportunity, or is there more opportunity to play off each other? Like, what works well for you guys? How does the dynamic shift when one of you is running a game?
From my perspective, when Chris is running, I treat him like, that he is the Lord of the universe.
This is a lie.
No, it's absolutely 100% true. Like he has, because I don't feel like at that point we don't share equal power.
Right. She doesn't give me a hard time, and Sharon's not a rules lawyer, and she doesn't try to badger me into submission with, my character should be doing this. You need to let me do this. But, I try to keep everybody in my focus, and I don't try to focus entirely on Sharon, but sometimes she is really drawing my focus because she's really doing what needs to move the game along.
Because I'm that good.
She's just that good.
Well, and everybody, I definitely hear what you're saying about favoritism. I played a game with my girlfriend in high school for a long time, and it was always like, am I showing favoritism? Am I not? How am I? Oh no, but you also need to give that person a chance in the spotlight, right? Because every player deserves their chance in the spotlight. So I think that is something that people can find challenging. How do you balance that? How do you make that work?
Well, Sharon has a bit of an advantage as far as commanding my attention in the game, because she's got much of my attention in downtime. Anytime she wants to, she can say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this in the game and making this kind of a story point. And then we'll talk about that, and it'll come up in the game. And other characters, other players, I'm really not that available to them for them to just bring it up on a, spur of the moment.
Yeah, they don't live in your house.
Right,
they can't.
right.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you do tell people to email you.
Yes. And I tried. So my game that I'm running right now, I had a storyline in mind 8 years ago, and that's become the most minor point in the game because everybody's character history has sort of motivated where the game has gone. Mm-hmm. And so It's been a very player-driven game, and it's winding down to a close right now. And
because our friend from like 20 years is 25, 20?
It doesn't matter.
24. Yeah. Well, he's leaving. And so that game it's gone on for many, many years.
It's gone on. It went into hiatus for a few years, but I mean, all told, it's been like 8 years of playing. Everybody in that game has had the ability to talk to me and say, this is what I want to do with my character. And Sharon actually motivated me to keep that game going, because she was really interested in her character and her character's story arc. And I don't really know if I got that kind of feedback from the other players.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I started just a couple weeks ago a Lord of the Rings, the One Ring role-playing game here with my wife after we watched it, and trying to wrangle everybody afterwards. That's always a chore to be like, when can you play? You can play this day. Now you can't play this day, that kind of thing. To the point of I was almost like, I don't know if we should do this again. But she wants to play so much that it helps drive me, because I'm like, yeah, we did have a good time.
Yeah, that's exactly what I need from Sharon to say, this game is fun. We're enjoying this. Because if the players don't tell me, I don't really know. And if after the game, I have to go to Sharon and say, was the game okay? And it's not because I have doubts. It's because I'm a narcissistic and needy dungeon master.
Yeah, but I think that's by definition is just a truism. Mm-hmm. No, I'm joking. That was no, for people that I'm totally joking. I'm sorry.
No, I was actually going to say, I mean, like all men, we need the reassurance.
Yeah. So Sharon is the one who basically motivated me to keep this game going for so long, because without her telling me that she's having fun, I wouldn't know if the game was enjoyable.
Hey, everybody. Just wanted to take a quick break to let you know about a sponsor for this episode of Tabletop Apple. I'm talking about the one and only Kobold Press. Kobold Press has the Tome of Beasts. You know it. It's more than 400 amazing monsters for 5th edition D&D. Well, guess what? They partnered with one of my very favorite companies, Roll20, to bring you Tome of Beasts on Roll20. That's right. If you buy Tome of Beasts on Roll20, it is ready to go for your games. It's in the compendium, and it's linked to any 5e game you start. You can just drag and drop a monster right from the compendium tab onto the game board, and it appears with a fully statted token, character sheet, bio, clickable skills and actions, and so much more. All monsters come with illustrated handouts and tokens by some of the finest artists working in fantasy today. Out of the game, you can use the compendium to search, sort, and find all of the monstrous information you need. If you love the Tome of Beasts, or if you love Roll20, you need to get their amazing marriage. You can find the Tome of Beasts on the Roll20 marketplace at roll20.net, or you can head on over to don'tsplitthepodcastnetwork.com, where you can click on the link over on the left. It's a big banner. It is amazing. It'll take you right there. Check it out. Thank you so much to Kobold Press for sponsoring this episode of Tabletop Babble. All right, back to the show.
Dave's character was the son of the Duke of Hell, which was really
a Duke in Hell, not the Duke of Hell.
Yeah, right. A Duke in Hell, which was really, God, going to hell and talking to a lawyer, like that was like the best experience ever. I think that was one of the high points of the last couple of years of role playing.
So Sharon enjoyed it so much. I made her keep telling me how much she enjoyed it that I could get that kind of endorphin rush or was serotonin rush.
But
sure.
I can't even, could you repeat the voice that you used for the lawyer? Because it was terrible.
I actually think I made it a combination of the Crypt Keeper and Quark.
And it was like, yes, I can't even.
Yes, I can get you that item if you ask me for it.
That is awesome.
It just seemed perfect for hell. I don't know. I was just like, I enjoyed it so much.
So I had a hard time continuing that voice because I lost my voice halfway through the game session from that. The very next week, a DM's Deep Dive, Mike was talking to Matt Mercer, and they talked about doing voices, and he said, "Don't do one that's going to wear your throat out."
Yeah. that is true. I do remember that game. I made one of the other characters mad though, because he's like, "Why are you talking to this lawyer?" And I was thinking, because I want information. And it was what my character would do. And his character was the kind of character that, he kind of stormed off, and that's what his character would do. And I just was like, I was fine with it, because I think it's really important to let players, do what they need to do for their characters,
And in the spirit of letting people do what their characters would do, Sharon's character has accidentally wandered into the most important events in the campaign.
But not because I'm your wife.
Not because she's my wife. It's like because
that
she's
room
like,
was...
I would have, okay, and I would set up the game and be like, okay, this is going on over here. And her character would be like, I'm bored. I go look over there. And I'm like, so she's become like the Forrest Gump of my campaign. Just accidentally bumbling into the most significant events and people.
Okay, but just to do, what is it called? The fourth wall? In the last game, I was asking this dragon character, so are there any places that are off limits here in this elven city? And she's like, Kismet, I know you, and if I tell you someplace not to go, you will go there. So no, there are no places off limits in this elven tree city. And because this woman is like very, very old, and she met me before when I stumbled into her room and helped her with her hair. It was just fascinating because Chris really kind of did the that today isn't that kind of adventure. He kind of gave that. That's why I said fourth wall, because he was kind of saying, no, I really didn't plan that for this game. Am I right?
Yeah,
a little bit.
So
right?
I was just going to bring it back to the question, which was compare that to how we play side by side rather than me being the dungeon master.
Side by side, we compete
game master.
Sometimes.
So yeah, we're a little bit more competitive when we're both players. And if it's a convention game, sometimes we're competing for the spotlight. We're competing for like the opinion of the other gamers, because there are some groups where we know they vote on best role player at the end of the game, but
yet in a friendly manner.
Right.
Like if we see, like, we want to do it in character and have fun, and we also try to make sure that everybody, because we've been doing this for so long, like I said, 25 years, we also try to make sure that everybody at the table is having fun. So I don't think we monopolize. I hope
we don't monopolize.
I don't
unless
think we do.
Everybody else at the table is really, really quiet.
Sure.
But we do get to play off each other. And sometimes we will make a conscious effort not to play directly off each other because we want to involve other people.
Yes.
You know, like if somebody is being quiet, we'll kind of like, we have this sort of silent agreement to try to bring in the people who aren't participating as much.
But, James has played with us. James, we've interacted with you plenty, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think, whenever I have played a game with you all, I think you usually have a character dynamic where you play off each other well, but that you're also bringing in other people. Again, since we're talking about playing with your significant other, I brought my wife to play with you all, and it was only maybe her fourth or fifth game of D&D, and I think she had such a blast because everybody was so inclusive, and she was worried because she was like, oh, I don't know everybody super well, and is it going to be okay? And so I can totally vouch for the fact that you are not selfish role players at all.
Yeah.
Very
and she
inclusive.
had fun.
Oh, she loved it. She loved it. She talks about that game all the time, actually.
Awesome.
Wait, can you remind us which one that was? What were we playing that time?
So we'll name drop a little bit here. We were with the one and only Mike Shea.
Oh, he's such a good GM.
He really, really is. And we were play testing Fantastic Adventures, his book that he put out. And we were we were doing a thing.
Was that the one with the blood golem or the wine golem?
No, we were underground, and there was like stuff. There was this well that stuff was happening. And wow, this is a really great description of this adventure. Fantastic Adventures is great, by the way. Everybody should go check it out.
Absolutely.
It was fantabulous.
Yeah. There was like an ancient chamber we uncovered, and there was a big orb in it. I played a gnome wizard named Morgren, who referred to everyone as his minions.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay. Now I remember. Yes.
I do remember, the characters everybody played, that we just had such a fun dynamic going on, and it was, it was super great. So that's why I'm so impressed with both of you, because I do think as players you play well together. Chris, I've never had the pleasure of playing with you as a game master, but hopefully I will someday. Do you all, because you play so many different games, do you have different genres of game that you prefer? Like, does one of you prefer horror and the other prefer something else, or is it, do you sort of equally like the same stuff?
This is where being a couple gets kind of sticky.
Yeah,
because
sticky.
that's not funny.
No, I'm sorry. I'll stop laughing. No, please. Okay, everybody stop laughing.
And so there are some things that I would like to do that Sharon doesn't really want to do in gaming. Like, I would like to kind of play in an evil kind of game. And Sharon has said many times she has absolutely no interest in that.
Okay. Can I just, it's not that I just don't want it to be seriously evil. If it was like funny evil, I could do that.
Right. So I'm going to try to get her feet wet with an evil campaign by running Paranoia.
Yeah, that would be okay. Or, like maybe if it was like a Star Trek situation where like we were just, one episode of the flip side, I could do that. But I just think that there's enough evil in the world that I want to be a hero. I don't want to kill puppies.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem.
No, there is. I mean, like, I don't know. I'm just saying that
But I don't think there's anything that Sharon has asked to do that I wasn't interested in doing. I
wish our friends were more interested in I'd like to play a Regency vampire game. I don't know why, but
so that's another thing. So I'm trying to work
steampunk.
on. So I've run games with Sharon as a party member, but I've never been able to focus on a one-on-one role-playing game with Sharon.
Interesting.
And I'm trying to break that curse with a Regency vampire game.
But we haven't started it yet.
We haven't started it yet.
We have ideas
because we keep going.
It.
Oh, but what about this? And what about this? And I don't know all the rules and stuff like that.
See, I think we should get our feet wet by just playing D&D together. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. And even if I had to run, a few characters, I think I could at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I really do. I really do. I'd like to see
Definitely.
what would happen with that. And then we could go on your, another podcast of
Definitely.
couples running games for each other.
Yeah, I should throw out to you all and to the listeners, you all should listen to a podcast called Party of One. There's a guy named Jeff Stormer, and essentially every episode he plays a role-playing game with one other person.
Okay.
And so not only has he done things like D&D and Pathfinder and taken them down, to one-on-one, but he's actually found a lot of role-playing and storytelling games that are meant for two people.
Okay, yeah. We recently picked up Cthulhu Confidential.
Yes.
Which is one of them. That's from, I think, Pelgrane Press?
Yeah, Pelgrane. We Rudy Basso and I played it on this very podcast together. That's great. They're going to put out, Pelgrane is going to put out a solo, which is Knights Black Agents, which is like, super spies versus vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that sounds super. Yeah.
Is that the one that the Dracula dossier is in?
Yes, it is. So there's that. There's a great role-playing game called Reflections by a designer named Jim McClure, who is a great designer, where you play rival samurais.
Awesome.
And you sort of go through life together to your final duel together, where you sort of, it starts with you as friends and what happens and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of really, really great games out there that if people want to play with their significant other, they should check out. So when you all go, then if you go to a place like Origins or you go to a convention, how do you pick games? How do you decide these are the games we're playing?
Excellent question, James. Excellent question. I mean, I'm really glad that you asked that. So, okay, I have to go back a little bit. So years ago, Chris was going to conventions and I was staying home. And I kept thinking, why is he leaving me at home? I think I'd like to go. But I was really nervous. And I was thinking, as a blind person, how am I going to go to a convention? Maybe people won't understand that I'm blind. And I have to tell you, I went to my first convention and I felt like, oh my goodness, I'm home. These are my people. Where have you people been all my life? Like, you're the coolest, best people in the universe. And you don't say things like, oh, do you get locked in a cage and wear your chainmail bikini? No, I don't do that. Maybe in somebody else's fantasy, but that's more cosplay. But anyhow.
Yeah, everybody knows, right? Everybody knows what a critical hit is. Everybody knows it's so great to be at a convention. Yeah. It's like another world.
So how do we pick games? So what we do is, because I'm blind, we actually play our games together, which other couples don't have to do. So I think our situation is probably even more intense than other people's because they could go to two different tables. But the great thing is, I think we just really respect each other and we compromise. We really do, right?
So when we pick our games for a convention, we kind of agree on our first pick and our second pick. And usually we've been really lucky with Origins in that we've usually gotten our 2 seats at our first pick. If we only get 1 seat at our first pick,
then we
don't go for the second pick. We're, one of us is going to play at that game and hope that the GM has an extra seat.
And sometimes that's happened, that we'll get the second seat, or we'll go to another room and play games on demand. The great thing is that we do compromise, we do respect each other, we look at the games ahead of time, we like the same things. So Chris is my best friend. So I love the fact that, we both love Doctor Who. So we have played a Doctor Who game usually every time we've gone to Origins. We both like Cthulhu, right? You like Cthulhu?
Mm-hmm.
And I like mashups. And I really liked Sesame Street Cthulhu. It was a great game. And they had the count there. And I said, well, could I play the count as a female? And the GM said, why not? So what was the name?
Countess backwards.
Yeah. So I had to do everything backwards. And since I'm a kindergarten teacher, it was really easy to come up with all kinds of words, starting with the letter F. It was fantastic. It was fabulous. We had fruitcake.
Meanwhile, I had to talk like this through the whole game.
Yeah, he totally won. I mean, he was
Hi-ho, this is Kermit the Frog.
coming
Coming to you
live.
live from the National Museum of Natural History.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome.
It sounds just like Kermit, doesn't it?
It's awesome for 30 seconds. Try doing it for 4 hours.
No, but then he got to, somebody asked him to sing a song in his, he was lost in a hedge maze.
No. The song was spontaneous. Somebody asked me to do Kermit doing Christopher Walken.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right.
And I said, I've got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
I told you. I mean, he's really great. And then he sang a song about, I don't know how he did this thing. He made it up on the spot. And see, that's why he got the Oscar, because we were playing Sesame Street Cthulhu. Get it? An Oscar.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, bad joke. But
Yes.
they handed him an Oscar.
I have a little pop-top Oscar downstairs.
Stole my Oscar, James. I should have gotten an Oscar.
Well, you know, there's always next year. Maybe you'll win an Oscar, you know, in 2018. 2018 is your year.
So I'm sorry, what was the question?
No, we picked the games together.
Right.
We picked the games together, and I don't know. Each year seems to have a theme. Like one year, we'll kind of go more heavy on superhero games. Like Chris will say, "I really want superhero games,"
Right.
and then the next year, you know,
We did a couple Doctor Who games, and then one year we did a couple Dresden games.
Oh yeah, I really wanted Dresden.
Oh, cool.
And you remember?
That's the one that I compromised.
Oh, you played a nerd, and I played like a sexy ninja.
Yeah. So we actually have to compromise on Dresden because Sharon loves it and loves she's read all the books, and she will get into any Dresden game she can. I'm kind of like, I've read a few of the books. I don't know the rest of them. I plan on getting to them someday.
But then you always say you have the most fun with
feel like
that.
I'm at a disadvantage going into a Dresden game because I just don't know everything about the universe.
Was it last year? That game was so fun. We played with people that were a little bit new. And we were playing like young people in a Dresden universe. And I had I was like a witch type character. And we were playing the character. Well, Chris also, he did that soul gaze thing. James, have you ever read any of the Jim Butcher books?
No, I haven't. I should. I'm sure I would love them.
So there's this intense thing called a soul gaze. And Chris saw it on his sheet. And he was like saying, I looked deeply into the guy's eyes. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's doing a soul gaze. And Chris is like, he looked at the GM and he goes, is that bad? And I just covered my face with my hand. Like it's only like the riskiest thing in the world to do. And you just fell into it. But
I really feel I should have known more about this when I went in.
but it was Chris and I, we had such a great time, and I was playing this witch, and we were in a bar, and it was very dangerous because was it your friend that was the vampire in the room?
I don't recall.
So there was a vampire in the room, and the GM was asking us, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I said, is there a fireplace in the room? Or maybe it was a stove because we were in a bar. I said, well, this is an old building. There might be like an old stove. And the GM, you know, I love GMs when they roll with it. And he goes, sure, there's a stove. So I had this kind of magic that if you had fire, you could, and I was a witch, so I could make up a spell. And I was warning the coven that somebody was going to come and attack them. And the GM told me later, he said, no one has ever warned the coven. He's like, I never even thought that was possible. But that my mind just works that way. Like, of course you warn the coven that there's like this great evil coming for them. So then the coven was prepared and the game kind of went in a different direction.
Sure.
And it was a really, really fun game. But to me, it was also fun because my husband was there and we were playing in the Dresden world, so one of my favorite things, and he didn't know what he was doing. Not that I'm making fun of him, because I'm not, because there are games where he knows all the rules for something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, there are times when I don't know the technical rules for the game.
I think you're kind of best when you play as if there aren't any.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that makes, it kind of takes the, kind of removes the walls. You can do anything. So if Sharon doesn't know the rules to a game and doesn't know what she's supposed to be able to do, she'll try anything, and it'll usually be something that the GM will have to figure out how to manage.
I think want to dance too, because people never told me that a blind person, shouldn't do ballroom dancing. So I guess when I don't know what I'm not supposed to do.
So you're a very dangerous person when you don't know what you're doing.
I know. I mean, in real life, I do ballroom dancing. So it's like, well, no one ever said I couldn't. So, maybe like if somebody said, like if you just handed me a paintbrush and I would just start painting.
Well, isn't that the true beauty of role-playing games, right? Is that you can do whatever you would be able to do in real life, plus you have magic powers or whatever the hook of the game is. So I think that's amazing. And I love when a player comes in and asks to do something that isn't necessarily on their sheet, but is still something that they should be able to do, right? And it's those surprises like Warning the Coven that really make the game interesting to me. It's when my players surprise me, I'm never happier when I'm running a game. So I try to surprise people when I'm a player then, because I know that's what makes me happy. So yeah, I think go for it. Do the real life ballroom dancing, and in role playing games, go crazy. That's how I think you should live your life.
Yes, I think so too. Definitely.
And Sharon, when we do go to cons, Sharon is kind enough to let me go and do the things that she doesn't enjoy, and she will go and take a nap. So that is actually kind of part of our gaming marriage contract.
I don't love going to the gaming room. The place where you buy stuff, James.
Oh, sure. The floor, if you will.
Yeah.
The exhibit hall.
Because a lot of the games Chris wants to sit, and a lot of them are visual, but I'm blind. So then it's very boring for me to stand there and like, look at this artwork. And I'm like, yeah, wow, it's super. No,
just
like being in a noisy crowd.
Right. So given free reign and given 4 hours, I could go through the exhibit hall.
Oh yeah, you definitely
and,
could.
Sit down at every vendor's table
and spend $1,000
and play their new game.
It's scary.
But Sharon's bored as crap by, watching me do that, because most of the games are things she can't play.
Yeah. I like buying t-shirts and
so she'll humor me for a little while in there, but if I want to be in there for an extended period of time, she'll be like, well, let's go back to the room and then you can come down here alone.
Or I'll go listen to one of my fantasy stories.
Right.
At a con, which is weird.
Nice.
And 1 year she let me go and play BattleTech, because she has zero interest in playing, BattleTech on a grid board with minis.
Sure. I understand. I can see, and I have zero interest in playing BattleTech, so I understand. Yeah.
Mostly the visual stuff. Like it's not me. I'm very open to trying new games. And I have to say, maybe in the beginning, I wasn't so much. But I think the more games you try, like now, if I sit down in a game and I don't know the rules, I can usually learn them within 15 minutes. Because it's always based on some kind of number system, and what's high, what's low. Okay, I've got it. Now, what is let me see the sheet. Now, who is this character? And I've told Chris I have little niches. Like we sat down at a table and the person said, well, you could play this protocol droid, or you could play this character that's kind of like this character from Firefly named Kaylee. Right? I went, Kaylee. Wow, I can play the heck out of Kaylee. Like I'll play her to the 10th degree. And I did. And the guys at the table, they were laughing and they were like, wow, she's like bright and sunny, but yet kind of dark too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It was great. It was just fabulous. So I have found that there are certain character types that are really, I don't know, up my alley. Is that the right expression?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, we've played together long enough that when we're going through the pre-gen characters,
oh God, this is true.
this happened like more than once. I'll like start reading off the characters and I'll like put them, I'll put them in a stack. And when I get to one that I'm reading out loud that I think she'll want to play, I set it aside. And then I keep going as if I hadn't, set that one aside. I'll keep reading it and she'll say, go back to the other one. And I'll pick up the one that I set aside. Almost, it's like 9 times out of 10, I know exactly which one she's going to pick.
Well, I want to play something, usually at a con, if it's like a one shot.
Right.
I want to play something that has a lot of flair or has a lot of personality or a lot of passion, because I'm not good at just sitting there. I've paid money for the game, so I want to be. I would say it's not just at a con. I should correct myself, because whenever we go to someone's house, if we're going to drive an hour to go play a game, I want to participate. I don't know, James. Do you know anybody that just wants to sit and not really play when they're playing?
No, I mean that even if it's your next door neighbor, you're going to be there for 4 hours, right?
Right. I've heard people talk about like their players drive an hour to get to their game, and then they sit on their phone the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, why do that? That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know either.
So we try to get in people's faces,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, James, if you ever want to come back to Maryland or invite us to Philadelphia, we'll drive to come and play for 6 hours.
Absolutely. Well, if you all are going to Origins again this year, maybe I will see you there too. So
are you going?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to go to Origins this year. So I'm very excited about it. I'm excited to see how it goes. Yeah. And I know that other people have gone, have really, really loved it. So
we play 3 games a day.
Oh my gosh.
That's like one thing. If you're going to a convention, don't overbook yourself.
Sure.
Because you can do 3 games a day and you can keep up that pace for maybe 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
I started having really wacky dreams the one year.
Oh, that's the best part, is that you get these dreams where you kind of
you don't
slide into other identities
because
you've been slipping in and out of your own identity for 12 hours.
Right.
Yeah, James, your brain, you will be surprised when you do this for 5 days in a row, solid gaming, your brain does start getting a little trippy.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And I've been to other conventions before. So, so I have done
you've done Gen Con a long time, right?
I've done Gen Con, and I've done a Catacon, and I did PAX Unplugged this year. So I definitely know what it's like when your brain starts to turn to mush, from gaming. It's a great feeling.
It is. It's surreal.
Well, we are running out of time here. So before we go, I want to ask you both, where can people find you on the internet? Where is a good place to check out DragonReel? Let's shout them out.
Okay. Our main home right now is DragonReel. It's at dragonreel.com. And we put up shows irregularly. We were trying to increase the pace, but so much real life has happened in the last couple months. It's been pretty painful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we're back into things.
You can follow DragonReel on Twitter at DragonReel, and you can follow our my main gaming account is Rule Zero Podcast, and that's still pretty active on Twitter.
Excellent. And what if people want to check out your amazing Obsidian portal?
Well, you could look at arulia.obsidianportal.com. We've got our last several gaming sessions have been illustrated by one of the players who does sketch notes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she's really very talented.
They're very fun.
When we went to hell.
So how many dungeon masters have their own dedicated cartoonist?
You're the first that I know of, so that's pretty awesome.
I feel so lucky.
Well, thank you both for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, we were honored to be invited.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Chris and Sharon for being on the show. Tabletop Babble, we're just starting our 2nd year over here, and we could use your help growing the show. There are people out there who don't know that Tabletop Babble is a thing. They don't know we exist. And so if you could hop onto iTunes and leave us a review, it would be super duper helpful. In fact, if you leave us a 5-star rating, I will read it out loud verbatim and credit the person who left it. Like Takuman Gaming. Takuman Gaming left us a review entitled Great Interviews and Discussions. They say, I love the discussion topics that these folks hold with some of the best-known designers in the role-playing game industry, as well as some up-and-comers about whom I've greatly appreciated learning. The interviews are great, and James Introcaso, that's me, is fantastic, positive, and energetic when he's interviewing, while leading listeners deep into interesting topics. Well, thank you so much, Takuman Gaming. You are amazing. People, you can follow me on Twitter at James Introcaso, and you can check out all of the game design stuff I'm doing over at worldbuilderblog.me. And hey, if you love this podcast, you should check out the Newbie DM minicast. It's right here on Don't Split the Podcast Network. It's Enrique Bertrand, the Newbie DM, and a celebrity DM guest friend taking one question from a listener, dissecting it, and answering it in 10 minutes. It is a great little podcast, awesome bursts of knowledge. It's like a gusher for your brain. Check it out. Tabletop Babble is a show on the Don't Split the Podcast Network, thanks to Rudy Basso for founding it with me. Our theme music, which you're listening to right now, was provided by BattleBards. Don't forget that RPGs are like sex. Sometimes you want to drink Mountain Dew during it. Hey everybody! Just wanted to let you know about another sponsor we have for this episode of Tabletop Babble. I am talking about Lone Wolf Development, the makers of Hero Lab, a character creation tool and encounter builder that make everything a breeze, automatically tracking modifiers for every stat, ability, item, spell, and option you select. You know these people. They have Pathfinder, Shadowrun, 5th edition, Mutants and Masterminds, Call of Cthulhu, and now Hero Lab also supports the smash hit RPG Starfinder. You should check it out because Hero Lab has also taken the experience even further. They've cranked it up to 12 with Hero Lab Online, which allows players to connect with each other for things like party loot management, a tactical console, direct GM to player and player to player interaction. There's even a streamlined starship management tool for those of you who will be playing Starfinder. Hero Lab Online makes managing RPGs a snap, so you can focus on playing the game. You can print out your heroes, you can share them, you can send them over PDF to each other. The validation engine that's part of Hero Lab will make sure your character is legal, or hey, if you want to break the game, guess what? They've got tons of rules for putting in your own content, including your own role-playing game system. That is incredible. Check it out at GetHeroLab.com. That's right, GetHeroLab.com for more information.
Alright, so my bosses James Introcaso and Rudy Basso asked me to record a commercial for the Newbie DM Minicast, my new 5 to 10 minute podcast aimed at giving dungeon masters quick nuggets of advice. But I've never cut a commercial before, so let me see what I could do. Best radio voice. Alright, Newbie DM here, inviting you... Oh wow, that's terrible. Hello, Newbie DM here, inviting you to join the Minicast. Wow, that's bad. This sucks. I'm never going to get this commercial for the Newbie DM Minicast done, and James and Rudy are going to be mad at me. You know what? Let me just put this aside for now and get back to recording another episode of the Minicast where I give out some hot DMing advice and I'll come back to the commercial later. Sorry, James. Sorry, Rudy. It's not going to happen right now.